Hello! Thank you for continuing to watch this series. I'll do my best to make sure that your faith is not misplaced. First thing we gotta do is something I've neglected for a while, which is, well, first of all, planning ahead. That's nice. I think John can finish this guy off, and the reason that this is important is because Kinsado has taken not a huge amount of damage, but some, and recovering now could possibly prevent him having to go back and recover a lot more in the future. You know, keep the unit fresh. The number of times that I've pushed my units too hard is not pretty. Of course, you've seen that, so I hardly even have to say it. This sort of situation has gone wrong before. However, I think things will be okay this time because although John can miss, the enemy is not going to close in from long range, and John's accuracy is, well, excellent. So the odds are very far in my favor, and if things go bad, I can still just use emergency load. The downside, of course, is that the enemy is free to take accurate shots as well. But, as usual, John is pretty far back, and I'm going to have him recover next turn anyway to fix those legs. So I figure it should be okay. John does not lose artillery wars easily. Wow, look at that. So the enemy spent a lot of time aiming, enough for John to fill his load gauge halfway. And what happened? The environment happened. Same thing happened to me last mission. Fortunately, I didn't lose an AFW at that point. Ooh. Yeah. Would've been bad. But hey, taking no damage, that's great. It so rarely happens, too. Well, I better start cleaning things up on this side, too, because Ipe is very strong, but it's still bad to leave him surrounded like that. Well, more importantly, those light AFWs will probably attack something that can defend itself less well than Ipe. As much as I'd like to strip the squads off of every enemy, given the situation and the number of enemies here, it's probably best to go right for the AFW break. And don't worry, I haven't forgot to make that a podcast. It's just there's so many episodes ahead. Don't hold your breath for that. Well, taking the accuracy penalty hurts a bit, but with my recon squads wounded and the enemy with the focus skill, it seemed prudent to put the recon in crew instead. And of course, I want the mechanics to take a shot or two. Hopefully without receiving a shot or two, because they don't take damage very well. Ouch, though. Well, it's okay. After the battle ends, they'll be roughly as damaged as my recon, so recover commands should work out, I think. Though they probably would have taken more damage if I had missed that shot. I mean, my mechanics probably would have finished them anyway, but it would have been messier. And minimizing mess is, of course, very helpful. Whew, that's a pretty beefy increase in aim. Any 4-point gain is something to be celebrated. Like, John usually gets that, and look what he has. I don't think I need to do anything special here. Once again, even though I prefer wiping out the squads first, in a map like this where I have to rush, you gotta be practical about things. Besides which, I already outlevel these enemies by a fair amount. I can afford to just punch them out every now and then. Speaking of which, I would play a Punch-Out game based on this. Just saying. Well, I guess this side isn't really in danger anymore. Ah, this is such a pain. But it'll only be time-consuming. I don't think they're in any real danger. Now there's a little bit of a tough decision on where to move Ryoko from here. Because I expect more fighting along the lower lines with the villages I plan to capture, because that's how it usually goes. On the other hand, there's also going to be reinforcements on the other side, because that's where the main objective is. And right now, those three are a bit light on equipment and versatility. They could use some help. I think this side needs Ryoko more. And regardless of how things go, I should take this village. Even though it doesn't have a squad. Just for the free squad recovery, I think. Well, it's a good thing well, actually, it doesn't matter, because that village doesn't have a squad either. But it's gonna be a while before that anti-AFW moves again. Also, this move here, where the foreleg on the other side went forward and attacked Ayana, that really caught me by surprise. It's not the worst thing, though, because that means that Kinsato and the others can move forward that way without having to worry too much about the four-leg AFWs stacking on each other. The only problem, of course, is that Ayana is in kind of a tough spot. The good news is that she's pretty good at taking anti-soldier shots, even if she's not supported. And it is a long-range battle. Oof! Yeah, like that. Now, if she did have infantry, they'd be history. But getting rid of one squad should be okay. The good news is that the Kurda squad, which I believe is on this team, has pretty good armor. Also, they didn't use cooperation right. Well, pairing them with a squad that doesn't shoot infantry is almost by definition not using them right. But mechanics and supply are actually not the very worst cooperation partners because they at least still have rifles. They don't have to have grenades fitted to them. Actually, considering that the person to follow up on this is going to be Emilio, I probably don't have to worry too much about removing the squads because it's going to come down to punching really soon anyway. But, you know, best practices, getting extra experiences. You know how it goes. Oh, and I did read the responses about video game tutorials, as in tutorials about video games in general. And I agree it's a very personal thing. But, I don't know, I think it's still possible to create something on a YouTube channel that can help people reasonably well. But what you described sort of helped me come up with an idea that I hadn't considered before, which is just, I don't know, talk to some people who don't know anything about video games and ask, like, what sort of things would they like to know if they were going to either pick it up themselves or help deal with someone who is very enthusiastic about them. And I haven't done that because socializing with people is hard, and I'm someone who doesn't leave the house very much, but enough about me. It seems like a good idea. And that last shot was very nice. Overall, Ayana is better at defending herself than, I don't know, some other builds I can think of. Like, Weizsäcker cannot do very much if he's attacked and has only anti-armor squads. He almost has to be treated similarly to a foreleg in that case, except that if a light AFW attacks him, he can just punch it, of course. Also, about that aim weapon, I sort of considered the idea that I should have used it first, but the way things worked out, I needed every anti-soldier shot that I could get at the time it was available, so taking that aim weapon shot when they were both in the back line seems to be pretty reasonable. I didn't take that much damage after all. And when Emilio is used mostly to finish off attackers rather than defend from a wave of enemies, I get more maximum attacks for using things like this. So that's not too bad. think that's the highest damage number I've put out so far. I mean, 2 of those will finish off even the later game stuff. Like we had a taste of that in Mission 8, I think. I mean, why would it not be okay? I'm open to other suggestions, though I guess it's a little late. Well, with that, he's free to move into the village and get some of that tasty free squad recovery. That seems pretty good. I also appreciate that it happens at the start of the turn rather than at the end of the turn, because then you can get attacked while you're on the space and recover from that immediately. Well, not immediately exactly, but it's high. I was deciding whether to say it's handy or it's nice, and the words kinda... Anyway. The enemy has wire, and this has been a problem before. So once again, I have to just move forward as much as possible before the wire happens and hope things work out. I'm still gonna go with this setup though, because even though cleanup would help solve this problem in a less awkward way, if the enemy's packing E-wire, I'd much rather have the repair. Because I don't want a long-lasting weapon break on this guy. Weapon break, right. Leg break is what I wanted to say. So, I definitely want to get rid of that infantry because of their special shells. And I probably should have told my troops to move before I fired. And I probably shouldn't have fired at the AFW. I don't know, maybe I was nervous from that whole awkward situation. Ooh, this is really nasty. Yeah, 4 legs with wire doesn't seem that horrible because supplies and... In fact, pretty much anyone who uses wire is usually best at close range. But getting stuck at medium or long against a 4-leg is no fun. Speaking of no fun, yeah, when they pull back their squads while you're trying to aim at them, that's kind of tough to deal with. Okay, now we know they're starting to hurt because a 4-leg doesn't usually deal such low damage unless their accuracy is low. Now, I don't want to be stuck with another wire, and I also don't want to take another rapid fire, so... Also, they're both at kind of low health, so suppressed fire should work pretty well. A spray fire would not have finished the infantry, I think. It might have, but it would have been a gamble. And it's an easy gamble to avoid, so there you go. Okay, considering how things started out, that was far from the worst thing that could have happened. Oh, too bad Weisegger can't follow up just yet. On the other hand, Forelegs do tend to have rather long delays on their turns, so who knows. Huh. A big operation, huh? Well, they just pretty much finished dealing with Karma. So it probably has nothing to do with us. It's plot, though, so I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. I mean, woods that are closer to my objective, or mountains that are farther, it's kind of a tough call. So here's where I have to make the big decision for Ayana. Whichever way I go, doubling back is probably going to take too long. And I've already kind of decided to move it up and to the right, but it's tough to know how many reinforcements are going to appear on either side. However I handle it, though, I'd best check enemy movement range. The problem on this side is that if reinforcements show up while there's already a bunch of AFWs there, I could get a really nasty pileup. I mean, it sounds like it's a joke, but Emilio actually is pretty good. And yes, it turns out Weisegger will move first, so that works out. And there's not much to gain by moving him forward. He'd recover the squad strength anyway, but recovering his AFW health while there's a chance seems like a good idea. Ooh. Makes me wonder how many times this sort of thing has happened to Ippei. Well, if anyone's gonna move forward and trigger reinforcements, Ippei should be it, because, well, you know how well he defends himself. And there they are. That's actually not too bad. They're both kind of tanky, but we have ways of dealing with them. Alright, so it looks like Weisegger won't put himself in too much danger if he moves forward and attacks, so... And the square doesn't even delay him much. If I attack diagonally, I mean. Oh, just a little editing note. When I want to speed something up, I don't do it while playing. I do it with my editing program afterwards, because I find that using the speed up function while playing messes with the sound a bit more. Okay, that must be on the outer range of medium, because he usually does more damage than that to a foreleg. Yeah, it's looking like that. Right at the edge of long. Not that it matters to my rocket launchers. Now that's the kind of thing I was thinking about. They got some pretty beefy anti-soldier shots. Ouch, though. I think overall they got hurt a bit more. Oh, they're starting to pile up now. I use that word, maybe stack up is a better word for it, but anyway. Now there's gonna be trouble. The good news is that the river has created a choke point for them, so they're limited in how they can advance. None of them can reach Jun, so Ryoko and Ippei can defend and then I can counterattack, but it's gonna be rough. Well, we'll see how this works out next time, shall we? As always, I hope you've enjoyed watching this, and I will continue to do my best to improve your day. See you next time!